I'm going to cover the Locked Up Abroad Panama episode featuring Mark Wedeven. You can look up his name. This guy said that he attended the University of Colorado and he wasn't doing that well in school. And this is a frequent story that you often hear on the Locked Up Abroad episode. Normally there's something missing in a person's life which motivates them to even travel to a foreign country, which there is nothing wrong about that. But what matters is what you do right afterwards. And you're going to see some of the choices that he made that not only affected his life, but the lives of others. He also said something very interesting, that he was actually born in Colombia and got adopted at 2 months. You don't really choose your adoption parents, and whatever they want you to do, you're going to do. So I would automatically assume that to a certain degree, this guy might have felt empty in life. Like he wasn't full and wanted to revisit his homeland just to get in tune with himself. And I can understand that, because although he was living the American dream, going to school, probably working a dead-end job, he's not really fulfilling his soul. And that is the ultimate reason you're living life anyway, is to complete your purpose or destiny. And it seems that he really wasn't doing that. I really would like to know more information about his background, because that determines who you are in the present and what you're going to become in the future. Always remember that. He also said that he would grow as a person and everything after that would make sense. That's a very interesting statement, because it really shows what he's been through in his past life. Grow as what? Make sense of what? I mean, maybe he was trying to live something he wasn't and felt like he needed to get back to his natural self, which we all want to do deep down inside. And it really seemed that he wanted to get off the tourist trek. He wanted to go to areas that are not frequented by Westerners. He wanted to get far away from that American lifestyle as he can. And when you travel, you typically want to do that, but that is a big mistake. As I'm going to talk about in future videos, you want to stay away from these red zones or these areas that are not frequented, because people stay away from them for a reason, and you do not want to get caught up in some BS later on. I was having a conversation with someone about how to get from Central America to South America. And there's a Pan-American highway that goes all the way from Canada through United States, Mexico, Central America, and it stops in Panama. And there's a gap, which is called the Darien Gap. It's 100 miles of dense jungle. And it is known to be a resting spot for paramilitaries and these independent vigilantes. So normally when people get down to Panama, they will get to Colombia by flying or taking a boat. Okay, so those are only 2 ways you can get across the Darien Gaps. Now there are some people who literally cross the Darien Gaps, but the jungle is just unbearable. You got bugs the size of your fist. You are going through some of the most dangerous terrain ever imaginable to man, while avoiding the violence from these paramilitary people. And some of these paramilitary people, the FARC and whatever, they're known for hustling narcotics. They're known for being in that industry. That's how they're able to fund their revolution to buy weapons to fight against the government. One very important thing that he said in the video is that he didn't know what it would take to get across the Darien Gap. As I said before, I constantly repeat this mantra over and over again, that when you go to an unknown country, you always want to do research so you don't get caught up in the bull stuff that this country has to offer. You want to avoid conflict, not lean into every punch that's being thrown at you, as people have a habit of doing when they're embarking on an adventure, because they want to see something new and experience something new. And you can do that safely. Unfortunately, safety means boring, and adventure means danger. And deep down inside, as you will learn later in this video, I think this dude really wanted to embark on a dangerous, not adventurous journey, because he could have just flew to Colombia to explore it for himself. Now, naturally, when you embark on a journey like this, you're going to meet travelers like yourself, and they're going to give you advice while you're returning the favors to them. And a lot of people was telling him that it's very dangerous to embark on this journey. However, he went against their wishes and their warnings because of some idea that exists in his head. You understand? He wanted to do this for himself. Now, If I go to a foreign country and someone tells me not to go here, I'm going to most likely listen to them, such as when I was in Colombia and I listened to that woman who told me not to go to Venezuela. And I'm glad that I didn't, because it would have been way rougher than going to Peru. Very important that he said he wanted to prove something to himself. I understand what you're saying, because I went to community college just to prove to myself that I can do it. And it's a challenge. And if you're going to embark on a forbidden adventure like that, it's best for you to learn everything from head to toe. Anybody who have ever did anything like that, don't just wait until you go to these places to do it. Do your research beforehand. Let me say it again. Do your research beforehand, because you're going to regret if you don't do it. Do you understand? He said that he was trying to get a map of the outline of the Darien jungle, but unfortunately he couldn't get it. And that's a very important thing, because that's the second warning or omen, as the guy in the Locked Up Abroad Thailand episode talked about. That's another sign that maybe you shouldn't do this. But he's going to get more signs later on. Don't get it twisted. I talk a lot about spirituality in my videos related to travel. Once he went into that shop searching for a map of the Darien jungle, he run into another traveler like himself who's doing the same thing. So now you got a question. Was this fate, destiny, or just a matter of coincidences? Who knows? The map that the lady had was actually aerial maps pointed down at the lush jungle that just covered the entire landscape. And that right there is another sign that if people do not go to this place, they're not going for a reason. It's like a neighborhood that's going through a war. Let's say you live in a place where there's a lot of shootings, people are getting jumped, a lot of crime is popping off. Similar to the Purge movie. You won't see that many people outside, maybe one or two sprinkle here. You ever looked at videos of Detroit? There's a popular YouTuber who drives his car around different hoods in America, specifically Detroit. He's from Detroit. And when you look at his videos, it's very dead. But we all know that city in Michigan is very dangerous. You understand? So always equate, if nobody is going, it's for a reason, maybe I should stay away. Now, of course, there's hidden gems out there, but in order to find those, you still got to search. And you got to be willing to put your life on the line or your freedom in jeopardy just to find these hidden gems. When you go to a foreign country and you run into travelers like yourself and y'all coincidentally going to the same place, for some reason you want to huddle up as a group and go there because you feel more comfortable. Naturally, you're going to have some reservations about these people because you don't know them. And that's what happened in his situation. The guy Robert, who he met at the store, brought a female named Meg along with him. And Mark, the main guy of the narration, didn't feel too good about her. But he can visibly tell that she has some big reservations about him. Maybe that was women's intuition. Maybe she could foresee the future, or at least had a feeling that this guy might get us into some BS. Think about that for a minute. They also cover the FARC. That's a left-wing paramilitary group that's fighting for freedom in Colombia. They want, I guess fair housing, food, want to get rid of poverty and whatever. But like I said earlier, it is suspected that they fund their wars based on the proceeds from illegal drugs. All the information, books, and internet articles, YouTube videos that I have seen about the FARC, they seem like they will kidnap you. Yes, that can happen. But eventually they'll let you go. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. It really depends on what their end goal is. They want to send a message to the government. This is what we're going to do if you don't make what we want happen. He said he did not determine whether they belong in that part of the world. And that's the thing about it. If you don't belong somewhere, simply don't go. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Change your ticket, go the other way, choose another destination. But if you're getting feelings like this, it's best for you to act on them. Trust me. I always ask myself, do I need to go? What does my intuition say? I always dig deep inside myself to ask these questions. Is my heart there? That's the reason I go to Thailand so much. And every time I go to Thailand, for the most part, good things happen overall. Of course, some bad things happen, but, you know, I'd rather listen to my intuition, because maybe it's a learning experience there. So it's very important to take heed to these signs and listen to your intuition when you're on these trips. Another thing he said is that whatever was ahead, if they felt like they got themselves into something they can get out of, that's premature, ignorant thinking, because, as I said in another video, when you go to these foreign countries, it's not your rules anymore. You can't be thinking with your egotistic, I'ma dominate the world American attitude. No. Whatever rules they got, you're going to play by. You're going somewhere like the Darien jungle. You can't beat Mother Nature. That's the whole idea of the Titanic, building the ship that's going to go against nature. And then nature brought it down. Yeah, so he said he ran into a native guide in one of the towns out there in the Darien named Victor. He said that Victor didn't have any reservations about showing them or guiding them through the Darien Gap. Do you want to know why he didn't have any reservations? Because he wanted that money, that moolah. It's just like the missionary who got killed trying to go to North Sentinel Island. You pay the right price to somebody who's poor. They'll go to a forbidden area even if it's dangerous. Now when they get to this border that's at this town where the native guide is from, the Panama police had them sit in an enclosed area, and Mark and his buddies wanted to get past. They telling the Panama police, hey man, we want to go to this jungle. And the police is rebuttaling, telling them, no, you can't go to this jungle. They're steady trying to conjure excuses to get through this jungle. And the police is like, nah. Another sign. They're steady rebuttaling with drug trafficking, rebuttaling with the FARC, the possibility of getting kidnapping. Mark and his buddies, they didn't care. They wanted to indulge in their adventure. This is what they wanted to do. Police kept on telling them, no, we're not going to let you through. And Mark said something very important. He was like, this is where he trusted Victor, because Victor wouldn't give up. Do you want to know why Victor wouldn't give up? Because of this. Don't let money get in the way of spiritual signs. Panama is like a second world country, so the police officer he was speaking with went to go and get his commander, so the commander can speak with the group, and the commander arrived on a helicopter. So this is a serious deal. It's a really big deal. Yeah, so the police was like, we're not responsible for you if anything happens out there, and let them go. And like Mark said, regardless on what would have happened, they would have made their way into the Darien. He said no one could really predict what would have happened next. Well, the Panama police did, that's for sure. When they got to the village, the villagers were startled by it. They like, what's all these people doing here? What's up? Because people normally don't go there. Another sign. They all had machetes ready to turn those guts into spaghetti. They had machetes ready to turn them guts into Italian spaghetti. And at this point, the trip is going pretty well, okay? But maybe that's the quiet before the storm. He said that there was 3 guys who emerged from the bushes running. I mean, they wasn't full of sprinting, but they was running quicker than the group was traveling. He said a little bit after this, they finished their lunch and continued trekking the jungle. After a bit of time, they hear some gunshots. Pop, 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 pop. When you hear gunshots happening in one area, you don't continue to that area. You go the opposite way. One time, I was working at a labor place. You had to be there at like 3 o'clock in the morning in order to be one of the first ones in line, so you could sign your name first, so the person behind the desk can look at your name and send you out that day to work. While we were waiting, I saw a bunch of police turning the corner, going down there. And I was getting ready to go down there. But this dude who I was having a conversation with, he was like, hey, what you think about going down there for? I was like, shit, just to see what's happening. And he told me that when you see something going on over there, you don't go over there to see what it is. You go the opposite way, because you can get caught in a crossfire. He began telling me a couple of stories about how there were fights outside and a couple of people would come outside just to see what's going on, get in the mix. Next thing you know, they get shot and killed. That's like the ultimate sign. You hear gunshots, you don't go in the area. You know people got weapons in that area, you don't go over there. But I think subconsciously he knew that, but still wanted to see what it was. Right then and there, you should have turned back. Forget that. Trip's over. Alright? Like this other Locked Up Abroad episode, this dude drove his motorcycle through Colombia. He was going north though. Around this same general area. Got kidnapped. He got kidnapped for a very, very long time. And once he got rescued, you know what he did? He continued his motorcycle trip through South America. He was coming from North America. I think he went through Canada, United States, Mexico. He could continue his trip. Something like that happened. Trip is over. You won, because he was saying that I'm not going to let those people win. No, they won. They kidnapping you for months or years, whatever. It's over. You hear gunshots in a forbidden jungle that you ain't supposed to be in anyway with a couple of trips over. It's over. It's over. The guides ran. They got the heck up out of there. They said they wasn't going to continue hearing all those gunshots. Coincidentally, it's New Year's Day right now. New Year's Eve, I'm doing this video, and I know it's going to be some gunshots. So that's why I'm going to dip on the floor, okay? I'm going to lay in my bed over there. So when they start popping off over here, you know, bullets gonna fly through the window or something like that, man. It's literally 15 minutes before 12 o'clock. The guys start hauling ass. They dropped everything and left. They already knew what it was. He said two of the guys that he saw earlier emerged from the woods again running. They had blood on their face. And they said that somebody started shooting at them for no reason. Trip's over. The trip is over. Moreover, he said that the third guy that was with, that he saw earlier, got killed. People are getting killed, getting popped in an area. Don't go over there. The trip is over with. You feel me?
And they continued back to Paya, where our guides had just run off to.
At that point, it's time to get to safety. The guys returned to the town Paya. That's the native village, the last native village in Panama before you get to Colombia. He said that their first response, referring to the FARC, is to shoot anybody who's moving away from them. Forget trying to debate and talk people out of going on this trip. The other two people should have said, forget it. I mean, for the fact that Megan and Robert tried to negotiate with Mark as if this is a choice. People are shooting guns. These dudes are running away. They got blood on them. Every red flag in the book is out in there, in that jungle. And you're going to proceed to walk there? Stay out of these red zones. Stay out of these red zones. And then you start speaking loudly. They don't know who you are or where you're from. They just got done shooting at other people. And you're going to talk loudly so they can hear you and zero in on your location. I'm sorry to say, but I guess the jungle heat, the dehydration, possibly the hunger, it starts to play with your mind. You start to believe some of these illusions. But when you step back from an outside view and take a look at the entire picture, you start to realize that maybe, just maybe, this is not a good idea. But like I said, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. They were deprived of nutrients. So it's hard to think clearly. Like when you look at some of these survival shows, people who haven't had any sustenance in their bodies, they're not thinking clearly. That's just what it is. So the soldiers just caught them, made them get down on the ground, had their guns out, and basically radio in to see who in the heck these people are. The Victor guy, which is the guide, he the FARC guerrillas started asking about this town Paya that they just came from. They're real interested in this place. The FARC wanted to take Victor to Panama because they needed a guide to get there, and you know, the group didn't want to go, but I mean, these are guerrilla soldiers with automatic rifles on you. You ain't got no choice but to go. The FARC told the group, it's okay, man, we're gonna go and secure the area. There's nothing to worry about. You know, that kind of reminded me of the situation with 9/11 when the terrorists flew the planes to the World Trade Center, and some of the witnesses and people on the phones inside the plane who was calling their families was saying that these guys were on an intercom, the terrorist was on an intercom stating, don't worry, we're going back to the airport. It's kind of interesting how people who are terrorists or people who terrorize you always want to make it calm. Calm down before we start killing people. Kind of like the TV show The Wire. Chris and Snoop. Chris used to take these guys around, kill them, and will always talk easy to them. Oh, your family gonna find your body. It's okay, boss. I'm gonna do you right. Soothe their mind before killing them. Mark said something very important. He said that after they slept, I guess for a night or two, the soldiers moved into a different area, and while they're walking through this patch of land, they could smell death in the air. I guess decomposing bodies, maybe old blood, stuff like that. So keep in mind, you're surrounded by death energy. Energy matters. Energy matters. It matters. Mark was talking about how they didn't want to take the chance of escaping because they didn't have any survival skills. You know, and it's kind of interesting how they would take the chance of going to Panama, going through the Darien, you know, willing to put their life on the line. But now when it comes time to possibly escape, they don't want to do it. Now the group comes back, right? The FARC guerrilla members come back from Paya, and they don't have Victor with them. What happened? And then they told the group to give up all your electronics, all information they had, passports, documents, everything the FARC members wanted. Yeah, so Mark realized that these guys, the FARC members, are possibly paramilitary guerrillas, which are the ops or the opposition to the FARC. These are the bad guys who will sever your head, kill you off, kidnap you for ransom money. And he measured this information against the fact that Victor didn't know these guys and was on edge about who they were. So they finally entered Colombia after trekking through the jungle at night. Pitch black, couldn't see anything. Arrived to a soccer field where they crashed out for the day. So when Mark gets separated from Megan and Robert, they take him near a beach where there's a lot of military guys there, and they start questioning him about his political views as far as the paramilitary goes, the bad guys. And he said that he gave them a piece of his mind because he knew for sure they wasn't a FARC, and he just started going off, and the commander interrupted him, was like, okay, stop. And eventually they released the group. So after they get dropped off by the paramilitary, a nun and a priest picks them up and take them to a drop-off point where they hitch a jet to Bogota, which is the capital city of Colombia. From there, they was able to go to the U.S. Embassy and sit down and talk with a special agent. The agent wanted to know everything about their trip and what happened, and was specifically asking about their guide Victor. What happened to Victor? And Mark and the group, Mark, Megan, and Robert, found out what happened to Victor. So the paramilitaries go to Paya. That's the last town in Panama before Colombia. When they arrived, the townspeople didn't want them there. So there was some type of conflict. They end up killing the elder and leaving his son for dead. Then they went further into Colombia to this town called Pucarú, which is north of Paya. But their guide, Victor, was able to escape, went to Pucarú and told the people, warned them what's going to happen. And the people left by the time the paramilitary came, burned their houses down. Now, you got to remember that these are Indians, right? They're Native Americans, so they're very spiritual people. That's why they don't really like human contact for that reason and health reasons as well. Not only did their elder get killed, and they hold their elders dear to their hearts, and leaving his son for dead. So that's like the ultimate form of disrespect. And, you know, they burned this town down. This was the first ever paramilitary incursion that happened in Panama because of this group. Now, while the agent is explaining the entire story, Mark starts feeling a little bit wheezy, sick to his stomach, because he realized what has happened. If they didn't decide to go to Panama and enter Colombia, would all of this had happened? It's very interesting how the nurse who came to see him asked him what happened to you, because she could tell that there was something wrong. So at least he had a heart about what happened. But that's going to be short-lived. You'll see. He said that there was people killed, and maybe, and he stuttered before he said maybe it was our fault. Homie, yes, it was your fault. So he's already trying to distance himself from the blame. He's basically reverting back to that American mindset. I'm not going to take responsibilities for my actions. It's because of them. And he's questioning whether the paramilitaries would have entered Colombia without them. That's up for debate. There's no debate about it. It's because of y'all. This was the first ever incursion. Y'all weren't supposed to be there. Without Victor, those military cats wouldn't even got up in Panama. Yeah, it's just y'all fault, man. Hate to say it. At least he still thinks about it. He thinks about his choices and whatever, showing that he feels some type of remorse for what happened. At the very end, I really didn't like the way he said that. He said that he was willing to get to Colombia via Panama through the Darien Gap, and he was willing to pay any price for that to happen. And he said he didn't have to pay a price. Other people paid a price. I get what he's saying, but I just didn't like the way he said it. It's still him trying to shun responsibility. Now, at the very end of it, they say that Mark died on Mount Rainier. It's in Washington. It's one of the most challenging mountains to climb in the world. He has already done it 3 times. Well, at least 3 times, his father says. But I guess it was that one time he did it and ended up dying. I don't know. But that's the end of the video. The main idea is always look for signs. If you got multiple signs telling you not to do something, it's best to turn around, forget your desire or what you have invested in. Sometimes you got to cut your losses and move on. You got to know when to move on. That's just what it's going to be. Alright? And just keep in mind that everything you do is going to come back to you tenfold. That's the way the world works. Some people don't believe it, but it comes back sooner or later. Alright? So, I hope y'all learned something. That's my review of Locked Up Abroad, Panama.